Hey, this is Daniel Grove, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the pen tools in Photoshop to create some very fancy framing and edging work, which you can use as brushes, of course vector art, image frames, backgrounds, all kinds of cool stuff. Hopefully you'll learn a few tricks, and let's get started. Okay, here is the image we're going to be tracing. This is from the corner of my son's graduation folder that his school graduation came in, and it just stood out to me as cool, and I've always liked these fancy framing and ornate decorations that we see on older publications and documents. So let's recreate this, and for some reason the angle of this bothers me, so I'm going to rotate this, even though ultimately it's not going to matter, because what we're going to do is we're going to use the pen tool to basically draw paths, which are vector, not pixels, but vector lines and shapes over these, and then we're going to turn this into a brush and also a vector image, which we can use later as an asset to decorate any image or graphic that you make. So before we get started, we need to make this totally flat. So I'm going to turn on a grid. So show, where's the grid? And we're going to make these lines completely straight. Also, let's add some contrast here with a temporary adjustment layer. We're going to use the levels one. This is just going to make things stand out more and be a little bit less noisy. There we go, that helps. We can of course turn this off later, it's not permanent. So I'm going to press V for my move tool and then turn on show controls. And we're going to actually unlock this bottom layer. See this padlock? Turn that off. That allows us to transform and do stuff to this bottom base layer. So I'm going to hold control and click on this top left point and drag straight up while holding shift, which only allows me to drag in straight either left, right, or up or down directions. I'm going to drag straight up, and I'm going to try to get this horizontal line completely parallel to the grid. Now it's hard to do it perfectly because this line is not very clean, but that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to drag this one to the right to get this vertical line straight, because you can see it kind of curves. And this is paper, it is bent. This is like not flat when I took this picture, so not ideal, but we'll work with what we got. Let's use a space bar and left click and drag to pan. That looks pretty good. It's straight down there, and then the corner curves. Of course it does. But that's all right. There we go. I'll just leave it right there. Hit enter, and there we go. Let's turn off our levels, turn off our obnoxious grid. Okay, yeah, straighter, easier to work with. So let's focus on this fancy part, and then we'll do the lines, which are super easy. So the pen tool, letter P on your keyboard, will get you down here, pen tool. Now let's do stroke to nothing, and then fill, let's make it black. So as we draw a complete solid shape, it'll fill in, and we'll see, what we got. Also, let's use some guides to guide us. So Control R to turn on your ruler, and then click and drag down. Let's do a line there for that border. It also helps us with this corner, and then over here with this, a vertical guide right there, so that everything can be consistent. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so P for pen tool, we got a black filler, there's no edge, no stroke. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to click over here. Now when you click and drag, you suddenly have these control points. These are called Bezier control points, which allow you to customize the curvature of the curve that you're drawing. A single click will make one without those control points. We see automatically it's connecting and closing the shape. So that's good. That's what we want. We want it to be closed. Now if you want this to have a little bit of thickness, you can kind of draw right there and then here to officially close it, so it's not just a perfectly sharp edge. And yeah, there we go. Now these points are going to be a little trickier, but we're going to do some cheating by overlaying things. This is just black on white, so we don't have to have things perfect. I'm just going to draw actual curves, and then if we need a circle, we're going to draw a separate shape for a circle. If we need a dot, we're going to draw a solid dot. Like I said, cheating, but the end result is what we want. So P for pen, and now we're actually going to use a stroke color, but no fill color, because we don't want this to be an actual shape. It's just going to be a line. So I'm going to click and drag here and give it kind of an initial direction. Okay, now when drawing circular type curves, you kind of want to do as little control points as possible so that the curve can be organic and look right. But when we're tracing over something like this, it's pretty easy. I'm going to, of course, adjust the thickness here in a minute. Okay, long stretch over here. And remember, you can hold spacebar and click and drag, and then let go of spacebar. Now we're back to our drawing. Okay, there. And then I think one click here. Oop, no, undo, Control Z, click and drag. We still need to get that control point there to get the curve just right. Awesome, okay. So when we're done with one curve, we can basically hit enter and it's kind of like you're done. Now I can start another one, which I'm going to do for this little guy. Now this is a cool part right here. I'm going to show you how to do a non-organic curve. Now look, see what's going on? It is trying to do this, crazy U-turn over here. But if we don't want that, we can actually adjust the individual anchors or control points. I'll show you how to do that. You need to use the direct selection tool. You can click on a control point and we could of course move it and do what we'd expect it to do, like that. Or if you hold Alt or Option on Mac and drag a control point, now the other one is not moving along with it. Like before, it was doing this. They're kind of mirroring each other in opposites. But if you hold Alt, it sort of breaks that link and allows you to really customize each handle independent of the other one. Now this curve is still a little funny because I think this control point is influencing it. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, it's still going to make a sharp edge. You can also move actual, like the main point around, as well as adjust the anchor points. Okay, that's good enough for me. Moving on, let's draw this big curl. Now this is a symmetrical design. Once we do this, part, we can just flip it and mirror it down here and everything will be perfect. It'll also save us a lot of work. Remember, enter to confirm a drawing layer. Oh, we need to use the move tool and then enter. Now let's press P again to start a new curve. Now I want us to stem out of this one. So we need to start right in the middle, right about there, as best you can be. And now we're going to start the little curly Q. Before I let go, I sort of use my eyes to glance up and down the curve to make sure that it's following it as best as possible before I let go. See this one, I don't like that bump there, so I'm going to go a little further down. Yeah, that's good. And you can also use your arrow keys on your keyboard to move points 1 pixel at a time once they're drawn. There we go. Now this is ultimately going to be a circle here, but I am going to kind of spin it inwards just so it has an ending. There we go. We got this one, start right in the middle. Start with our initial direction. There we go, there we go. And let's see if I can go all the way down here. Yeah. Awesome. Enter. Now we got this one. I'm gonna go, let's see. I'm gonna start right here and just draw a straight line all the way there. Enter. Start from that same starting point. Doing an inward curve. Hold Alt and grab that. Let's make this like a V shape. Let's see if I did it right. Oh yeah, that worked pretty good. Cool. And we can continue this and go all the way up here. We are going to need to hold Alt and direct this guy up here so we can get that inward curve. Holding Alt again, I'm going to adjust this handle. Okay, now we can continue to draw the rest of our shape. Oh, this is weird. Why is it doing that? I think it's because, yeah, we got this handle sticking out. So hold Alt and, strange, I had to hold Control. I don't know why it switched that on me. That was weird. All right, so I'm kind of cocking my head to the side to see if I can tell how symmetrical these are versus this side to this side. Maybe drag this point over one. There we go, enter. Oh, we got a crazy thing shooting out down here. Let's see if we can fix that. Where is that coming from? This curve? Let's see if we can control the caps. Yeah, you can control the caps, which is where, a sharp angle happens. That will smooth it out. Probably avoid that issue that I had over here earlier. Let's see if we can fix this one. Which shape is that? Not that one. This one. So click. Change the cap to the rounded one. Yeah, there we go. Looks a lot better. Awesome. Okay, let's draw a circle. So you can actually use vector shapes, which works the same way, just it gives you pre-made shapes. So U for that, press the letter U. We're going to make sure that stroke is on. I'm going to click in the middle, then hold Alt and then Shift. So Alt drags out from the center and Shift keeps it all, proportional. Awesome. So that is pretty much it for the basic shape. Let's see if we can get the thickness of these curves to match, because that's starting to bother me now. Let's grab, what shape is this? This big one. So, oh, that curve looks a little funny. Smooth it out. There we go. The cool thing about vector is it's completely non-destructive. Like, these are not pixels. It's rendering as pixels so we can see it on our screen, but ultimately I can scale up or down these curves any resolution I want. 16K, no problem. I can go up ginormous for a huge wall portrait or something like that, a big mural print for some kind of graphic, and there's not going to be any pixelization because these curves are recalculated and then re-rendered by the program. Anyway, so here we go. Thickness, let's bring it up to maybe 12. Oh, almost there. Let's try 14. Yeah, that's good. All right, so we need to make them all consistent. So we got to select them all now. Probably should have done this early on. Awesome. Looks good. Now we can copy and paste this over here, and then we can fill in these dots. So let's grab all of our shapes so far. Put them in a folder. Let's make sure it's everything we need. Yeah, oh, we missed this one. Okay, now we don't want to duplicate all of this actually. We don't want to duplicate the center one and this half. So what are we going to do here? We're going to leave this outside the folder and then this one outside the folder. There we go. So just these guys are what we're mirroring. Oh, not the circle. Where's the circle? We got to go through each folder. Go through each layer, and there it is. All right, so we're gonna grab all these. I'm just gonna duplicate the group. Okay, so with one click on this side stretching control point, I'm gonna type in a dash in front of the 100. So it's gonna turn the width into negative 100%. In other words, mirror imaging it. Press enter to confirm or hit that check mark. And now I need to rotate this 90 degrees. So hold shift, rotate, there we go. And did I do it right? Yes, I did, awesome. Now we need to line this up so it looks nice and clean. So I'm going to Z for zoom tool and then move this in. And actually take it back. Earlier I said you don't need to do a group. I highly advise you do a group because it just makes selecting everything so much easier. And does everything line up? It does in Photoshop, but here it doesn't. That is actually not a big deal. It might be because the paper was bent or something else. Maybe we need to move this group down a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, there. Okay, cool. So it's using my arrow my arrow keys there to make things perfect. Oh, I didn't fill in this triangle here. Let's see if we can grab it. It was the first thing I drew, so it should be on the bottom. Shape 1. Oh, that got the one down there. And then in the first group I did first shape 1. To change colors and thickness, you do need to be in the correct selection tool. So you have to actually use the white or the black arrow as a path selection or direct selection, and that gives you these controls up here that were gone earlier, which is pretty annoying. I wish they would just stay there whenever you have a path selected, but I didn't make Photoshop. Okay, so that's good. Now let's make these border lines. So path. Click and then hold shift and click so that they make a straight line. It should snap onto this guide, but just in case, let's make this 16 pixels thick. And I'm going to move it down a few pixels because it's kind of above where this triangle is. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Down one more pixel. Make sure it's going all the way to the edge, and it is. Let's make these other thicker lines. So there. Oops, look at this. It's trying to draw a solid shape. I didn't hit enter earlier, so enter. Now with the pen tool I can draw a brand new layer shape. Hold shift and click and it'll make a straight A to B line, completely horizontal. V for move tool. Now I can use my arrow tools to move it up. I'm going to make this one a little bit thicker. You go back to this tool, make it maybe 20 thickness. Move it up. And then this bottom one's going to be extra thick. So enter, P for pen, click. Oops, I'm making a solid shape again. Enter. Point there and then point right there holding shift, and let's make this maybe 40. Let's do 50. Yeah, that's cool. Move tool, use my arrow to move it up. Awesome. Now we're going to copy these 3 lines we just made and move them down here just like we did earlier. So we're going to put them in folders. So for some reason this is in that folder. Let's move it up here. Where is this shape? Oh man, I lost my shapes now. Just go through and start hiding things. Oh, there's one. So you should really name these. I'm not naming anything, and here I am, lost with all my layers. Turn them back on. Okay, so these three right here, 10, 8, 9, and 10 are my lines. Put them in a folder. Let's name something for once, lines. Let's duplicate that group. Enter. Single click on one of these stretching points, make the width negative, and then rotate this 90 degrees. Holding shift gives you exact rotations. And we're going to, this might get a little tricky here. We might have to adjust these. Let's line it up as best we can. Like that, okay. Now to fill in these gaps, I'm going to just adjust this one curve here, which should be, no, that one. And I'm just gonna stretch, I'm just gonna move this last point directly over using my arrow keys. All right, cool, so that is it. If you want to clean this up, we can make a selection, we can crop it. And now let's hide the background layer. Let's make a white background layer. Press D on your keyboard and then X to invert it, and we got the solid white color. Oh, we didn't do the dots, my bad. Let's put the background image back. We got to fill in this thing here. So which folder? Yeah, this folder. So click on the folder name and then U for shape, and let's click right in the middle. Hold Alt and Shift. There we go. Let's make it solid black. Cool, and make sure that it kind of lines up with the curve. There you go. Like, don't do this where it looks like a weird ball at the end. You want the line we already drew to kind of curve into the dot. Awesome. We're going to use that same circle so it's the same size. So hold Alt, click, and drag. Drop it right here, and let's do that same thing where we kind of lined it up. Awesome. Looks good. All right. If you want to round out the ends of these two, you can make some little smaller dots like that, and then Alt click and drag it down, or Option click on Mac. That way you just kind of have like an ending for these lines. There we go. Cool. Okay, so let's turn this into a brush. So to do that, let's get rid of our background layer, give it a black on white look, and all you need to do is essentially go up to Edit, Define Brush Preset, Fancy Corner, click OK. Now let's open an image and I'll show you how to use this on top. Let's make a new layer on top. Automatically the brush you just created is selected, but if you right click you can see it's at the very bottom of your brush settings. Not in any folder because you haven't put it anywhere. So it's right there. Let's use a golden color. So yellowy orange, saturated. I'm using my left bracket to shrink the brush size, and we can paint it on right there. We go. Now the tricky part about using brushes is that you're going to have to perfectly line up this brush. We can rotate it here. We're going to perfectly line it up, and then we got to kind of draw the gaps, you know, to match them up. And I don't think I lined them up perfectly, so there's sort of a lot of work you could. One easy way to spread this around all the corners is to duplicate the layer. So right click and do duplicate, okay, and then select all. This is important. Grab the whole thing, go to Edit, Transform, and flip horizontally. There we go. Then you can merge these two layers together. So we have the top left and top right. Do merge down. So it's this on one layer. Duplicate, enter, and then Edit, Transform, flip vertically. There we go. And then you can join these together if you want by doing merge layer. And now we just have to draw the lines or stretch this to meet the other lines down there. They're already lined up, right? Because all we did was a perfect flip. So you can use a square marquee selection like that, hit V for move tool, and then just stretch it on down. But you don't want to stretch proportionally, obviously. So hold shift and you can drag it down to match there. Enter. Grab this, V, hold shift, drag down, enter, go up here. This has a really good like fairy tale kind of Disney, classic Disney look. Definitely need to use this on some of my princess cosplays. Enter, and there we go. We've got a nice classy border. You can make this look even fancier with some layer styles. So just double click in this empty area next to the layer name, turn on bevel and emboss, and play with these settings to where it's got some thickness and a little bit of highlight and shadows. You can kind of make it look reflective, like gold, shiny. Put a little shadow if you want to give it some extra depth. Maybe a little warm glow. Awesome. All right, so I'm ready to export this as a vector file, which is going to be a .svg, very standard for vector formats. You can use that in a number of different programs. And I just realized this line is not lined up, and that really bothers me, but oh well, I'll fix it later. So if you did something like this, make sure all your stuff lines up, and don't be like me. So let's go to File, Export, Export As, and we have some different options here, but none of them are SVG or vector formats. These are, rasterized, normal pixel image formats, PNG, JPEG, and GIF, or GIF. And we don't see what we need here. For some reason, Photoshop decided nobody needs SVG anymore, so let's hide it. So to get it back, you need to go to Export, Preferences. So on my second screen, here we go. On the very bottom, use Legacy Export As. Like, why would they go backwards and remove a standard format that everyone loves? I don't know. It's very strange. So now we can go to Export and Export As. And here is the Legacy dialog, and now we have SVG. So there we go. We see everything here. That's good. And let's click Export. I'm going to name this Fancy Corner Vector. I'm going to put it in my graphics folder. Save. And here it is, Fancy Corner Vector. It says it's a Microsoft HTML document, which is weird. If we double click on it, let's see if we can open it in Microsoft Edge. And we can, look at that. So looks like web browsers have the ability to render vector data, which is random. What else can open it? It's not a normal image, so some more basic image editors won't be able to open it. But let's do what we did earlier. I'm going to use a different image. So let's do what we did earlier, but instead of using a brush, we're going to use the vector file. So here is another wedding portrait, this time black and white, and I'm going to drag this SVG file on top of Photoshop and see what happens. Here it is, Fancy Corner, drag and drop, and there it is. Now it has a white background, which is really ugly, probably because we exported it with a white background. Whoopsie, let's get rid of that and try it again. Export, Export As. I'm going to overwrite the old file. Hopefully this gets rid of the white background, even though I still see it here. Okay, back to our wedding picture. Delete that layer. Let's drag and drop it again. There we go. So, lesson learned again, don't have background layers of solid colors in your vector file, because they will get saved. Now, this is more of an object, and it's not a brush, and we can size it without losing detail, because this is a smart object. If you see over here, this little icon here means it's a smart object, which means there's basically retains quality more than a normal image would. So we can size it up ginormous, and watch this, there won't be any pixelization. Huge, way bigger than the picture. Look, totally clean, completely clean. Looks like the old Flash animation curves I used to sing in the days of my youth. And yeah, no resolution issues. That's great. So let's undo a few steps. Here we go. I'm going to size it up maybe to about that big. Enter. And we can basically do the same thing we did before. Or if you want to put it all the way up against the edge where it snaps, you can hold Alt and drag and then rotate it, holding Shift, let it snap into the corners. Awesome. And then we can do that again. Now this is actually not going to work. You know why? Because my spacing was not pixel perfect. What I mean by is, look, the distance from here to here is different than here to here. So these are not going to line up. See that? You can already tell they're mismatching. My earlier technique that I did with the brushes is actually going to be a better option here, because I was not, like I said, pixel perfect when I put these things around here. So using this top corner, I'm going to leave this here, but I'm going to move it down a little bit. Just kind of eyeball it. There we go. Get a little bit of a gap from the image border. Okay, so select all, duplicate, edit. Once you duplicated that layer, let's do select all, and we should be able to do transform, but for some weird reason, maybe because there isn't pixel information on this layer, it's a smart object, it doesn't let me do that. It's very strange, but watch this. If I deselect and just have the actual vector object itself selected, right where it is, now we can go to transform and flip vertical. Very strange. Click and drag it down by holding Shift while you drag, so it moves perfect. There we go. Let's duplicate this layer. Let's actually duplicate both these layers at the same time. Right, there's also Control J if you want to duplicate. And then edit, transform, flip horizontally. Move these over while holding Shift so that they don't move up and down. And there we go. Cool. Now we can either use a black brush and try to match up the pixels, or we can just get down and dirty with this and rasterize it into pixels. There we go. Now these are all just normal pixel layers. Merge them all together and do that resizing and stretching trick that I did earlier. Now, because this is all just pixels on one layer, we can press Ctrl-I to invert it if you want a white border instead of black. We can use Ctrl-U and colorize and add some kind of color, which might be kind of weird because this is a black and white image. Don't know if I would ever really do this. It looks pretty 90s, very 2000s right now. Kind of hurts me. Yeah, let's not do that. Oh, no. This is fine how it is. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you have any questions, ask down below. I love to interact with you guys. If you have any suggestions for future topics or tutorials you'd like to see on my channel, let me know as well. Thanks again for watching, and there'll be more where this came from very soon.